The Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuses to let the Hebrews go. And now God is going to show him just how powerful he is with the 10 plagues of Egypt. In just a moment, the river that sustains them all will turn to blood. A plague of frogs will cover the land. Boils will melt their flesh. But before that, there are 9 other plagues to go. Hailstorms, locusts, darkness, and death. All of these plagues will occur in just under 100 scenes. Let's begin. Moses raised his staff and struck the water. It turned to blood. Every living creature in the Nile, from the smallest fish to the largest crocodile, died. The water was so full of blood that the rivers turned black, and the Egyptians could undrink it or use it for cleaning or for the many other things that they needed it for. Pharaoh hardened his heart against the Hebrews. He made them Hebrew slaves. They had to make bricks without straw, and he beat his slave drivers. But God said, that will change. Moses raised his staff again. The frogs came hopping out of the Nile and covered the ground, climbing up the palace walls, filling the streets, and even flying into the Pharaoh's palace. Pharaoh tried to swat one away, but it hopped onto his finger and then jumped down his throat. Yuck. But after 3 days, the frogs were gone. The river was still filled with blood. The Egyptians were very upset, but Pharaoh was even angrier because those frogs were delicious. There were so many, and now they were all dead. Moses raised his staff a 3rd time, and this time little bugs fell on the Egyptians. At first, they thought it was just a light dusting of sand. But when they looked closely, they saw tiny little moving things squiggling around on their arms, legs, and faces. Lice. They scratched and they bit. They crawled into the ears and under the fingernails. These would be the Hebrew slaves' new friends. And while Moses was busy slapping more bugs on his own body, the flies came. Oh, yes, swarms and swarms of flies that buzzed and bit and splattered against the walls and doors. And the Egyptians couldn't get rid of them. When Pharaoh finally kicked the Hebrews out of his palace, these little bites and stings drove them crazy. Oh, my back! I can't take it anymore. Let's go back. No! No! We're almost free! Almost! As soon as they left the city, the plague of flies left them alone. But as the Hebrews rejoiced, something terrible happened. The Egyptians' livestock began to drop to the ground. Their cattle, sheep and goats. Even the prized possessions of the Pharaoh, all were dropping down dead. Then the worst plague came. Moses stretched out his hand, and boils covered the Egyptians from the tips of their fingers to the bottoms of their feet. Some were big boils, some were small, but all were painful. Some boils grew into huge abscesses that melted the skin and dripped down their arms and legs. Others went blind when their eyes filled with pus. Pharaoh scratched at his boils and screamed bloody murder. But God wasn't finished yet. There were 5 more plagues to go. Big fat drops began to fall from the sky. The Egyptians looked up, shielding their eyes. Hailstones as big as goose eggs came plummeting down, smashing into the ground, shattering the windows of the palace, killing many animals and hurting many people. Pharaoh ran out of his palace to see what was happening. He pointed up at the sky and yelled, "Why are you doing this?" But God didn't answer. After the hailstones came the locusts, which flew in from the east. They ate every green thing they could find, every vegetable in the gardens, every fruit on the trees, every leaf on the plants. They ate, and they ate, and they kept eating until nothing green remained. Locusts flew into the Pharaoh's palace, crawling all over the walls and furniture. Pharaoh slapped at them as he tried to climb into bed. But the sheets were full of locusts. When he pulled the covers up over his head, they crawled up his curtains. He screamed and threw the covers off, but the room was too dark to see anything. So Pharaoh got under the bed. And here's the hidden truth. Total darkness covered all of Egypt. It was so dark that not even a finger could be seen. It was so quiet that not a bird could be heard. This darkness was different from any darkness the Egyptians had ever known. This was the darkness of the grave. Pharaoh peeked out from under the bed. Everything was still. Then he heard screams in the night. Many of the Egyptian families had lost their firstborn sons. They were lying cold and stiff where they had fallen. Pharaoh's son was dead, too. He knelt beside the body and cried out to God, begging for forgiveness. Here's the hidden truth. All of this happened because Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He wouldn't listen to God and let the Hebrews go. And now their God was showing him how powerful he is. And that's all for now. See you next time!